Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored today to have a new speaker, someone who has not spoken before this group ever, and we are, trying to find speakers with more information about Yolo County and what's going on and what's not going on. We only know a little corner of Davis. There's a lot of county out there, and so today it is my privilege to introduce our today's speaker. He is the Undersheriff, which is the number 2 person of the Yolo County Sheriff's Department. The title of his speech is going to be the operations of the Yolo County Sheriff's Department. Matt is it's really funny because Matt's here today, and his brother was here 2 months ago, I think. So, we got the Davis brothers here going. So, Matt's is a local kid, grew up in Davis, graduated Davis High School, attended college at Sacramento State College. Excuse me. And how long have you been in the department?
Over 22.
Okay, 22 years. He started, I think, at the bottom. He started as the deputy, and then he moved up, was promoted to sergeant, to lieutenant, to captain, to the undersecretary. He was just named that. So, without further ado, Mr. Matt Davis.
Thank you. First, I want to start out by thanking you for welcoming me here to speak with you all. I appreciate your involvement in the community, your willingness to learn and stay informed and be a part of the community, the same one that I'm a part of. As mentioned, grew up here in Davis, went to Davis High, graduated Sac State. Actually, one of my first jobs was here delivering pizzas. Yeah. True story. And I knew this was going to be a good crowd when the guess was Ryan was older. He is not. Ryan's my younger brother. But we both stay involved in the community. And I will understand if I lose your attention to the game. One of my biggest involvement in this community has been through youth soccer since my son was very, very young. Coached him until just Memorial Day. That was my retirement as he moved on to a more serious team. That was a long time, not understanding soccer at the outset. It was a big learning curve. In any case, as mentioned, graduated Sac State, started with the Sacramento Police Department, quickly realized I didn't get into this career to do the job somewhere that wasn't special to me, that I didn't have a connection with. Quickly came over to the Yolo County Sheriff's Office and found a home. As mentioned, worked my way up through the ranks. I was eventually appointed undersheriff by our current sheriff, Tom Lopez, who I should mention couldn't be here today. This meeting was set well in advance, and he had a conflict going back months. He's been with the agency over 45 years. He was the undersheriff to Sheriff Prieto for 12, and now he's in his second term, which is interestingly enough a 6-year term. Normally 4-year terms for sheriffs and district attorneys. In 2022, this is not about the sheriff's office, but I suppose it's worth mentioning. In 2022, the California legislature the idea was to move the district attorney and sheriff's races in line with the presidential elections. So all district attorneys and sheriffs elected that year received 6-year terms, just one-time 6-year terms to align them all up and down the state with the presidential election cycle. So Sheriff Lopez, like I said, is in his second term. He has 2.5 years left on that term. And now back to the overview of the sheriff's office, as was mentioned. So everyone's aware of what a police department does. It's kind of obvious. You see them every day. They're your local law enforcement. The sheriff's office is a much more multifaceted organization in the county. Often a little bit misunderstood exactly what we do. And I'll go into the 3 main divisions of the sheriff's office, but it's important to note we're really only responsible for security at the jail. the courthouse, and civil processes. Everything else is extra. We're not mandated to do it. Of course, it's important work that we do, but those are the mandates of the sheriff's office. So as budgets get smaller, we lean further and further back into the mandates, and that's just the nature of the business. So your Yolo County Sheriff's Office is made up of 3 main divisions: the Administrative Division, Detention, and Field Operations, each led by a single captain. And I'll start with Field Operations. That's the most obvious and the most visible division of the Sheriff's Office. First, Patrol. Those are now they're Chevy Tahoes nowadays. They weren't when I drove them. The big white Chevy Tahoes and F-150s patrolling the areas. So we are responsible for law enforcement everywhere in the over 1,000 square miles of this county that is not an incorporated city. There are 4 cities: Davis, Woodland, West Sac, and Winters. All the areas in between, that's the Yolo County Sheriff's Office. So we are the primary law enforcement agencies throughout the county, with one nuance. We are not responsible, or we are not the primary responsible agency for traffic. That falls to the Highway Patrol. And so there are many areas, for example in Davis, that feel like the city of Davis, that they are not. They're the county. You can usually tell if there's a sidewalk and a street lamp, you're in the city. As soon as that drops off, you're back in the county. For example, El Macero, pockets of Willowbank, the neighborhood out here at the end of Russell at 98, those are in the county. Those are the Sheriff's Office responsibility. And the Sheriff's Office Patrol, much like Davis, generally has between 4 and 6 deputies on patrol. Unlike Davis, it's only a few square miles big. Like I said, 1,000 square miles. So the deputies are rather spread out. They operate throughout the county. We do everything we can to keep them spread out, because when they get sucked into a call for service, then the next call they're coming from a ways away. We do employ out in the field what we call resident deputies. I'm going to count them really quickly in my head. We have 5. One resides in the Dunnigan area, but that area of responsibility extends all the way down to Woodland. That's a large beat. We have 2 assigned to the area west of I-505 up Highway 16, the Cape Bay Valley area. And then, just as importantly, the forgotten area of the county often, especially living in Davis, is the Clarksburg area, the area south of West Sacramento. We have 2 deputies assigned down to that area. And that is often the most difficult beat to cover. Backup from Woodland is obviously very extended. You're generally driving through Sacramento to get there. Like I said, and field operations, while visible, is relatively small. You're talking about just over 30 deputies assigned to that unit. Not very big. There are only upwards of 20,000 people that live in unincorporated Yolo County, although the area is very large. So field operations also encompasses our marine patrol. We are fortunate to have a large section of the river. We fund 1 deputy and a sergeant full-time. They're paid for by a grant through the Department of Boating and Waterways. But it is seasonal, so we will utilize the deputy in other ways during the winter and kind of beef it up during the summer when it's quite busy. The river generates quite a few calls for service. It's an interesting place to work. And that deputy and sergeant also do an excellent job with a program called it's called the SAVE grant. I can try to do the acronym, but I might forget it wrong. In any case, they utilize state funds to go up and down the river and try to remove derelict vessels. It's very common for individuals to just abandon their boats and set them adrift, because it's very expensive to get rid of a boat. And so we utilize this grant to pull them out and get them demolished. Like I said, very expensive, the fiberglass and the materials, and people just walk away from them. Obviously, they're not on the roadways. It's much more difficult to maintain proper registration on vessels. Just a different animal in the water. So also part of field operations would be the detectives. We have a detective unit. It's about 6 deputies strong and a sergeant. They are very, very busy. We're not large enough to have different units within the detective unit, but we do have specialized deputies. For example, one of them receives additional and extra training in agricultural crimes, which is a big deal in Yolo County. One of the more well-known cases in recent memory was theft of bee boxes, which are shockingly expensive. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bee boxes. It's a big deal. Also, kind of based on what's going on with our first speaker, theft of agricultural fuel is a big deal in the county right now, obviously. The price has gone up a little bit, as you might know. And so really getting out there and combating that is a big deal for the sheriff's office, a little unique to our office rather than a police department. And let's see, moving on from field operations. I'm going to go into the Detention Division. And like I said, one of the mandates of the sheriff's office is running the jail. As you probably know, the jail is in Woodland. It's on the corner of Gibson and County Road 102. It feels like the jail's in the middle of Woodland right now. When it was built, it was not. It was out in the middle of the county. Woodland has surrounded it with houses. We do deal with the city of Woodland now. They tend to not be thrilled when there are releases walking into their neighborhoods. Again, it wasn't planned that way. And that's just one of the things we have to deal with the Woodland City Council. But the Detention Division is staffed by over 100 correctional officers. They're non-sworn individuals who work in the jail. Over 100. It was 120, and I'll just go into it right now. We did a staffing study a few years ago. It should be about 147. We had 120. The Board of Supervisors, due to budget reductions, did eliminate 15 positions. We're down to 105. Results in some mandatory overtime and such. It is one of the challenges of the sheriff's office. We were having an issue recruiting correctional officers. We've totally flipped the script on that. We're able to hire. We're full right now with correctional officers. It's a shame that we lost those positions, but understand that's the nature of county budgets, and that's where we're at right now. So we're gonna do the best we can with what we have in the jail. Also in the Detention Division is the majority of the deputy sheriffs, believe it or not. They work in the courthouse. That courthouse is very busy. It takes a lot of a lot of deputies to handle security, in addition to transportation, which is, I don't think I realized what that was before working here. So our transportation deputies every single morning are moving individuals from the jail to their court dates in the courthouse. Obviously the courthouse downtown, jail's not. That's a daily occurrence, back and forth, back and forth. Additionally, warrants, runs to and from prisons. Our deputies are driving up and down the states and sometimes throughout the country every single day. Changes to state operations have resulted in the receiving center, for example, used to be in Tracy for the prison system. It's now near Bakersfield. Just longer travel times for the sheriff's office, and it takes a lot of deputies to run that unit. They're quite busy, and it feels like the majority are out driving the police cars, and they're not. They're actually in the courthouse, and that's, like I said, one of our main areas of responsibility. So, moving on to I skipped an entire section out of field operations that's very important because it's countywide. The coroner's section. You read about them. Hopefully you don't see them. They are responsible countywide for investigating unexpected deaths within the county. Obviously important work. There's about 5 deputy coroners supervised by our chief deputy coroner. They do an excellent job. They're very professional. They're throughout the county every single day. You know, unfortunately, you only read about them when something occurs that's high profile. But obviously not everything they do is high profile. They do an excellent job to communicate with families and, like I said, remain professional. Obviously, that's a 24/7 job too, and they do a great job. In association with the deputy coroners, there's the sheriff's office. Tom Lopez is now the sheriff, coroner, and public administrator. That's a unit of 3 civilians also. The public administrator is tasked with taking care of decedents' estates when there's not next of kin. another important job that can be kind of overlooked. The most public-facing thing they do every spring is they do put together a very respectful and professional indigent funeral service out at the Woodland Cemetery. But they are very busy. People are passing away every day that don't have loved ones next of kin to take care of their estates, their property, and all of that. It's a big lift for that little unit to do that, and they do a great job. So administration, that's just the backbone of the organization. That hiring, professional standards would be internal affairs, and that unit also handles Public Records Act requests, which is quite a time-consuming task nowadays. We receive Public Records Act requests for all kinds of topics throughout the Sheriff's Office, but every single day. Requires a response within 10 days, requires gathering documents and so forth. And not that shouldn't exist, it just happens to be a time-consuming task. Gathering those documents, making contact with the person requesting them, and so forth. So that person's quite busy, but do a great job with that. We also, like I said, hiring is a big deal within the Sheriff's Office. It's maintaining staffing is very important, obviously. At the county level, we work hand in hand with county human resources. Can slow things down, bureaucracy always does, but we do a good job, we work with them well. And like I said, we've made great inroads hiring correctional officers. It was a real problem. There's been a couple of grand jury reports. They're always very complimentary of the facility, but recognize the problems that we have with staffing it. We've made great inroads in the last year. Currently, like I said, we're able to hire. One of the reasons we're able to do that is if you apply to be a correctional officer, now you're interviewing within 2 weeks. It used to be months, just the nature of the business. We've really got it down to 2 weeks. So if you show some interest, you're in front of us within 2 weeks. And it's helped dramatically to get people into that profession. And that's a great foot in the door into this profession. That's one of our only classifications that an individual can apply off the street. A deputy sheriff needs some extensive training before they're eligible to apply to be a deputy sheriff. A correctional officer, we will train you. We try to recruit next door at the community college and so forth. Like I said, people who are interested in the profession, it's a great way to learn about whether or not it's even for you, and you can apply off the street, which gives us an opportunity to get people into the door.
What are some duties of the correctional officer?
The correctional officer, they are tasked with simply the care and safety of the individuals in our facility. No more, no less. I mean, that's what they do. They often work in a pod. They're out, with the exception of the highest security pod. They're out with the incarcerated population. They learn how to talk to people, and that's the most important thing, because you talk to people with respect, and you get that voluntary compliance, and that's all we want. It's not generally, there's exceptions to every rule. It's not often a hands-on job, and it shouldn't be if done correctly, and it's not. It's one of the best things about working at the Yolo County Sheriff's Office is the people that work here generally want to work here. We do a great job of hiring from within the community, and when you talk about correctional officer, these are individuals who are working in that pod with these people who might run into them at Raley's later that week. And it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. You try to really treat people with that respect that they should be treating them with, but they're motivated to do so because of that fact.
So there's no cross deputy to correctional officer, they are two separate?
So they are separate. It's a promotion to go from correctional officer to deputy sheriff, and that does occur. It does occur. Yes. We do not, time flies, so it's probably been over 2 years, the county administrator made a decision to move animal services out of the purview of the sheriff's office. It's still on our campus. We still work with them. We provide them some assistance with training and so forth, but we are not in charge of them anymore. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that our county is quite different than some
lots of agriculture. My question is cannabis, is that something that's big on the radar these days, or is it something that's changed?
That was a big deal several years ago. It was in the papers and so forth. It really has waned. I'm no expert in the business, but it feels like the business isn't what people thought it was. There are still some sites in Cape Valley, but when it was first approved, and now you're putting me on the spot, I want to say, man, that was back in Don Saylor's days, so 2020, 21, something like that, maybe earlier than that. When it was first approved, there were many sites. There were some problems, there was code enforcement issues, there were robberies and things like that occurring, and that has really dropped off. Some of them have left, and so forth.
I guess what I'm getting at is that there are legal grows and illegal grows, and my opinion is spread like that. The counties, in the rural areas, the farmers are not in ag, their responsibility is our responsibility as citizens. If we see things going awry with an illegal grow or some other item, I think it's a partnership between who's living in the county and who's doing enforcement.
I mean, that goes for everything within law enforcement. Like, we always lean on the community to help us out with any kind of issue in every community. The eyes and ears living places every single day are the people who live there. And cannabis specifically, the illegal grows are a problem, in large part because of the environmental issues that they cause. There's theft of water, there's pesticides and things put onto the ground that shouldn't be present or is not legal to be present, and that's some of the bigger deal. But the illegal grows have really, that was a big deal when I first started at the sheriff's office. Our airplane was flying up and down the hills looking for these grows. It's dropped off, and that's a good thing. All right, I'm going to grab my pamphlet because I just make sure I didn't miss anything, but I'm happy to answer questions. I know we're like I said, multifaceted organization. Okay, I was in administration. So the other thing in administration, going back to our mandates, is the civil section. The sheriff's office is tasked with the unfortunate role of doing evictions, serving civil paperwork, and so forth. That's one of the sections that comes face to face with the entire county at our front window. We're also tasked with concealed weapons permits. However, this sheriff came up with an agreement with the city police departments, and the cities are generally handing their own, which is beneficial to us. It's been a few years since the Supreme Court kind of mandated that we hand them out. Before that, San Diego and Yolo County were the counties in the state that took the issue to the California Supreme Court and won. We were able at that time to only issue those permits for good cause. That's since been overturned at the Supreme Court level, and now concealed weapons permits are, we mandated to hand them out now. Okay, so to conclude, I'm going to plug our agency in one way and ask, if anyone's interested, we do have volunteer opportunities. You never know. The search and rescue team is always looking for individuals. That's a pretty interesting volunteer opportunity for anyone who's interested, or if you know someone who is interested. We run a rather large section of search and rescue volunteers. They do travel throughout the area as necessary. Obviously, our most common issues are up in the hills. Although the hiking trail that kind of associate with our area here in Davis, up by Berryessa, is actually Solano County, even though we get the call first. Yes. So, can I comment on the Esparto incident? Not really. I don't. It's going to sound like I'm being disingenuous, but I don't know any more information than you do. We were not the investigating agency. Obviously, we responded. We were in charge of the initial response, not knowing what occurred. We were in charge of, obviously, like I said, right when it happened, trying to make sense of it, secure the area, rescue, and so forth. We are the coroner's office. Absent that, we're not in the loop on that. So we learned about the details when the district attorney made those charges. Yes, sir.
So, Jill was here wasn't there some sort of controversy about juvenile hall and how juveniles, and so is there a juvenile hall?
There is a juvenile hall. It's on our campus. It's the building. If you're driving, like say to Costco, it's the building that's kind of closest to the road on the left, closest to Gibson. But probation. Juvenile hall is run by probation. Correct. One and the same. One and the same. Probation's main offices, they have a beautiful building now because they operate out of the old courthouse downtown. But juvenile hall is that building there. There are very few youths inside, maybe 10. That's a good thing as well.
Okay, explain why that, I mean, that's more than I grew up in. I know it's, there's a lot of problems over there. So why is the youth, I mean, are they turning over a new leaf? They're not committing crime? I mean, what?
The reason the population in the juvenile hall is low, the community does everything they can not to incarcerate youth. That's why. So they're turned over to diversion to their parents, to what have you. Everything we can do not to incarcerate.
What's the population of the adult population?
The population of the jail average of 2026 is 260. It's relatively low for the county, actually. We can house 350 in the main jail. That's the Monroe facility. We, via grant funding, built a new minimum security jail on the campus. It has not yet housed an incarcerated individual. That is related to the staffing issues we were previously experiencing and will experience now in the future, and related to the fact that in a positive note, the jail population is low.
Yeah. Another question. What is the major crime in Yolo County from the sheriff's perspective, from the sheriff's department's perspective?
The question was, what's the major crime? It's not unlike any city. So what our detectives do most is the crime that isn't fortunately well publicized, but they're investigating, crimes against children, primarily incidents that start online and so forth. The detectives do a ton of work with crimes against children. Other crimes in the county are not unlike the city. Last night the deputies responded to a domestic violence call, for example. With the exception of the crimes in the farms, copper theft, theft of fuel, theft of farm equipment, we're not unlike a police department. We just have smaller pockets of neighborhoods like Knights Landing, Esparto, and so forth. But in those areas, it's similar.
A couple of years ago, the chief of police was talking here, and the main crime was catalytic converter. Is that still happening? I haven't heard about that.
The question was, is catalytic converter theft still occurring? It's still occurring. It has dropped. Fortunately, there's been changes at the level to really come down on the recyclers, which is obviously the problem with that theft, because if you can't make money from stealing them, people will stop stealing them. So that has helped tremendously. So we are the question here, thank you. The question was about our budget. Where's the funding come from? The sheriff's office is primarily funded by the general fund, so we are the largest consumer of the general fund throughout the county. We do have some state grants to operate certain units, like I said, off-road highway vehicle team, the Marine Patrol, but generally we're a general fund county. Not county fund.
How many total employees is the sheriff?
We are about 275 right now. 275 employees.
How many sworn? How many?
80 sworn, about 80 sworn.
80 deputies?
That includes the command staff, so I would be included in that number. 80 sworn. So under 70 deputy sheriffs, 105 currently funded correctional officers. Hope to get that back to 120, 130 Someday soon.
Did you say you had trouble recruiting correctional officers or deputies?
We did, out of the pandemic, had a hard time recruiting. That has totally changed. Why that is, it's hard to say. The correctional officer issue was a statewide problem. I attend sheriff's statewide conferences, and the correctional officer classification was very difficult to recruit for up and down the state for a time. And like I said, it's just shifted. All of a sudden, currently we now have a list of people who have passed background. We don't have a spot for them, which is a great place to be. If someone walks out the door, we're going to make a phone call and they're going to come in.
Okay. So, if Sheriff Lopez leaves Yolo County, are you the sheriff? I mean, like, he's in Yolo County. Is that how that works? If he's out of state, obviously.
Yes, I run the sheriff's office day-to-day operations. If generally it only becomes, I'm only knighted, if you will, when he leaves the country on vacation, he will send a department-wide email. I'm not, but yes, sir.
I read in the paper a couple of days ago that rule against the
That's a good question. The question is whether or not we have a position for or against an oversight committee for the sheriff's office, like the Davis Police Department does. The Board of Supervisors has never moved in that direction, so we've never had a formal discussion about it. That's never occurred here in Yolo County. That would start at that level and obviously come down. So interestingly enough, I could give you my personal opinion, but there's no official sheriff's office opinion on that.
What's the pay scale in regard to the sheriff's department and the police department? Which is higher, which is lower, which is...
Typically, the Davis Police Department pay is slightly higher than the deputy sheriff's. Typically, the Yolo County Board of Supervisors, to their credit, maybe to the budget's detriment currently, I don't know, that's different discussion. They did move employees throughout the county to 100% of the average of their classification in the region. So the deputies are compensated at an average of city police and county sheriff's offices that surround Yolo County.
So, but they don't make as much as the city?
Generally not, but it fluctuates, you know. For example, the West Sacramento passed a tax initiative last year. They got pay raises. It moves up and down. Yes, sir.
I'd like to give a commendation to take compliments.
Sure.
In my experience, I live in North Davis, and that's sweet and Bondo. And it's been an ongoing part of our neighborhood because it is multi-jurisdictional.
No, I know it well.
I know it well. So essentially, you got the railroad, you have the Davis PD, and you have the county sheriff. My commendation, I've seen more than once how you, the sheriff's office, interact with the Davis PD, and it's a really nice thing to see that there's a collaboration in our town, in our area.
Thank you. Thank you. So he's talking about the collaboration, interagency collaboration, and I appreciate that. So the sheriff's office is the most likely agency to assist any of the other cities, because we're on the outskirts. For better or worse, West Sac seems to have the highest emergency incidents, so we're very often called in to assist the West Sacramento Police Department. We assist Woodland. In fact, the Woodland Police Department, West Sac, Winters, and the county fire departments and the sheriff's office are all in the same radio dispatch center. It's a shared unit that's out of Woodland. So Davis is the island, for better or worse, that they're the only city that runs their own dispatch center. The rest of us can talk to one another very easily, and the dispatchers are in the same room. So we're in and out of cities all the time. Obviously, Winters leans on us a little more than others because they're very small, but that's fine. They will not hesitate to assist the sheriff's office either. And as you mentioned, the unhoused population, they tend to figure out where the city limits are and move back and forth. And that, you know, it's not just Davis. There's areas just like that in Woodland and West Sac, and so we are constantly working with the police departments and their units to address those issues.
Do you deal with the homeless? Is there any homeless in the county?
So there is, because they will step outside the city limits. Like this gentleman was mentioning, that area that's just north of the cannery. I mean, those paths are visible on Google Earth. They've been there a while. Any other questions?
And so how do you deal with the homeless when you do deal with them?
Well, it depends. It depends on the individual who's causing the issue. It depends on the landowner, because, I mean, it's private property. Sometimes that can be a struggle. That's actually a struggle in the area on F and Grande. It can be a struggle with the landowner. It's a multi-jurisdictional response. Like you said, the railroad plays a part in it. They don't want our tractors, if we're going to do a cleanup, driving over their railroad tracks. It takes a lot of coordination. We just did a big cleanup north of Woodland along I-5 at the north end of what is, well, Lake West Street, north end of County Road 99. Cleared the camp, and then actually did a controlled burn to burn the vegetation down, so it's not as a desirable location to live in. That was just last week.
Don't have the information because last time when you sent the referral, they check this out.
So the question was, would we just send a member of the public off to figure out their own, like?
Say it's Sparta.
Yes.
I want to know some information. If your department doesn't have any then you don't have the information. So would you say, just simply, you don't handle that case, you don't have the information for your inquiry? But you can go to this other.
Yeah, we generally attempt to find the appropriate place to refer a member of the public to if it's not our area, our jurisdiction. Like I said, it's commonly traffic. We were in a traffic accident, car was stolen and so forth. Those aren't sheriff's office areas of responsibility, but we'll provide the number to the Woodland office and so forth.
I got a final question. Who is the sheriff's supervisor?
Who's the sheriff's supervisor? You. It's an elected position.
Okay, I wanna.
So the sheriff answers only to the people, not to the board of supervisors, only to the citizens of the county.
Because it's an elected position.
If the federal government decides to do an immigration customs enforcement action in Yolo County, is the Yolo County Sheriff obligated to help up the sheriff?
So the question is about, are we obligated to help immigration enforcement in the county from the federal level? In fact, state law prohibits us from doing so. So the answer is no. The only scenario, and it's happened in other places in the state, if they called for emergency assistance because they were in trouble, we would go help them as we would any other person, but not help them complete their mission. Two different things.
You mean it would help the immigrant, or it would help the...
Either one. Whoever needs assistance, that's one of those issues. That's... I think the way to put it is, like at a parade, you have two sides sometimes. Maybe we don't get to pick sides. Make sure everybody's safe.
I mean, I just don't see how the immigrant is going to call you. Hey, I'm getting shot at, and
we try everything we can to break that barrier down. It's difficult, especially with the immigrant population. But we do have migrant camps. There's a sizable one outside of a Knight's Landing. We do visit. We do have Spanish-speaking deputies attend as many events as we can. We try to break that barrier down. It's difficult. We understand that maybe these individuals aren't going to call us, but there are migrant camps. There's the one outside of Madison, there's the one south of Davis, large one outside of Knights Landing, and we do go out and try to make contact and try to make these people feel comfortable calling, because we want them to feel safe in the county, but it is a challenge.
You go out there to those camps?
Yes, sir.
Or what kind of?
For outreach. For outreach.
Oh, I mean, no, I was talking about problems or, crime or.
At times.
Yeah. All right.
Any other questions?
Okay. No. Thank you.
Again, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.